Right. Welcome. Hey, there we go. All right. Hey, Facebook. Welcome to Nerd Comedy. Let's give a round of applause to everybody that organized this show. Here on Facebook. Look at this here. I'll take this off. Although I have been wearing my mask a lot lately, because one, it's the right thing to do, but also, this is the closest thing to an adult blanket that you can carry around with you all the time. I wear it in my house when I'm by myself. Anytime I watch the news and it starts making me uncomfortable, I just slowly go like this. Be like, it's going to be okay. They're also very useful for when you're using a restroom that somebody is blown up before you. Yeah, go like that. Or if you know you're about to blow up that bathroom, just put a little toothpaste right in the side. No, I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited that Amy is allowing this to also be a benefit for a project that we've been working on for a number of years, the Short Bus Comedy Project. So, for years and years, I myself have wanted a short bus to do comedy out of. Because I grew up on that bus, and I freaking hated that bus. Because that bus, I don't know if anybody here ever rode it, because you didn't have to just be a person with a disability to ride the short bus. It was also the bus for all the kids that got kicked off of every single other bus in the district. So, you ended up having a lot of people with disabilities, and then a sprinkling of some really, really violent kids on the short bus, which was great, because no one teased you, because you knew that your best friend had all the knives. People don't know that about the short bus. But I hated the short bus. And I honestly think the short bus might have been my first experience performing. Because it is. Every time the short bus pulls up and they put the lift down and they roll us out one by one. I spent a few years in a wheelchair. Not because I had to, I just needed material. I also couldn't walk, but it was mostly for the material. But as soon as that thing goes down, all eyes on the playground immediately go to you. They're like, look at that weirdo. At least that's what it felt like, being on the short bus. So, as an adult, I really love the idea of the coolest seat on the short bus being the driver's seat. So we bought a short bus, and the idea is to go around and do comedy from the short bus. And don't limit it to people with disabilities. Don't segregate who gets on it. If you think you deserve to be on this short bus and you have a passion you want to share with students, come on the short bus. And this time of our lives right now in COVID, we're also really like the idea that it is a mobile performance. So we can go to outdoor venues, whether it's your cul-de-sac or a park, and do a show from the bus that is safe and entertaining and scratches that live performance itch that we're all experiencing right now. So part of tonight's proceeds will go to help us get the bus running. We bought it about 4 years ago, and we're slowly making progress. But it needs a few things. We need some tires, we need some batteries, and some help. So also, if anybody wants to volunteer, knows anything about a short bus, that's a 94 diesel. I know nothing about the short bus, other than, what it feels like to be on it. So that's a lot of what's going to happen tonight. I'm excited to be a part of nerd comedy. I live my life mostly according to Lord of the Rings, exclusively. And it really, and again, like other people go by other books, and that's fine. I choose to read from the book of Tolkien. And it does slip into my everyday life every now and again when I'm not expecting it. I officiated my sister's wedding. So I was it's hard to say how I officiated, right? Because saying I married my sister is not It doesn't sound right. So, I officiated. I went online. I got ordained. And we got everything set up. And we were on the beach. It was the most hipster wedding you've ever seen. The aisle that people went down was a burlap sack. Just rolled out. Basically like kombucha was being sprayed and misted into the event. But I stood there, and as we were getting ready, I was like, "Hey, sis, I don't want to panic you, but what should I say?" And she's like, "What? You don't know what to say?" I was like, "I got ordained, and like you and I were gonna talk about it, but remember how we're the flaky ones?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's true." I was like, "Yeah, we didn't plan this out, so we can go real traditional and be like, we're gathered here today, stuff." Or we can just go straight up, marriage is what brings us here. She's like, "No." I think she said there should be a beginning, a middle, and an end. I was like, "Great, let's do that." So we get through it. The 10 people that were on the beach were all like crying through the ceremony. Their vows were beautiful. But as soon as they gave each other rings, I didn't know. I knew it wasn't a closing time. I knew like this isn't the last I need something to transition to the end of this ceremony. So as soon as they exchanged rings, I said without thinking, "May these rings be a light for you in dark places when all other lights have gone out." There was a film crew, there were tears, champagne got popped. About 10 minutes after that, my sister said, "Hey, Frodo, come here. Did you just drop Lord of the Rings in my ceremony?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." But it was applicable. But it was a professional film shoot. They had a friend doing it. So I had to redo like B-roll and quote Lord of the Rings again. They're still together. The only other wedding I officiated, I told a wedding blessing in Blackfeet. Well, I told something in Blackfeet. So I met my birth family. Long story, my uncle was going to get me this wedding blessing, traditional Blackfeet, all 9 yards. But we never, again, I'm noticing a theme as I'm telling this joke. We never actually connected and planned anything. So, day of the wedding, my auntie is like crying in a venue much like this with a nice dance floor, very few people. And she says, "Are you ready? Do you have this?" And in my brain, I said, "No." I said, "Auntie, I'm sorry. I wasn't able to get the right blessing." But my mouth said, "Yeah." So this is the white side of the family. So they don't know any better. So I went out and I said in my most stoic voice and persona, I said, "Almox kipi ni pumuke na kunixkina." And again, tears, there were applause. Every white auntie and uncle I have were like, "Oh my God, he's learning his language." My aunt grabbed me as I was like making my smooth exit, because I'm known for my smooth exits. And she said, "Mike, hold on. What does that mean?" And I was like, may you have a long, happy marriage, and may you have healthy children. Facebook? Nerds? That's not what that means. That actually, loosely translated, means here's $10, go to the store and get me milk and jerky. I don't blame myself for their divorce. I feel like that was a doomed marriage anyway. All right, I'm going to introduce the next comic. Again, I'm very happy to be here. Again, known for my smooth exits, but you can, if you do want to donate, these are tough times. If you have a little extra money to give to this project, we really appreciate it. You can go to givebutter.com. I had to ask people 7 times. Did I say butter? Yeah, it says givebutter.com. little x, big 5, capital H, capital W, P7. So we'll be flashing this throughout the night. Always appreciated, never required. Which reminds me of the next comic. But I'm excited about his project coming up. Chapter 2 of his graphic novel, entitled Bloom Squad, is coming out soon. I hope he tells us more about it. It's with One Ish Press, anthology number 10. Everybody show a lot of love to a good friend of mine, James Johnson.
Thank you, Michael. All right. Are you ready for some comedy, nerds? Or should I say, are you ready for some comedy nerds? Because there's plenty of those here tonight. My name is James Johnson. I am so excited to be part of this show. On Tuesday, I was playing D&D on Zoom like an adult. And the conversation turned to Star Trek, The Next Generation, which is the best Star Trek. And we were talking about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. So we basically had the nerd trifecta going there. My favorite thing to nerd out about is Magic the Gathering. Yeah, yep. For those of you who don't know, Magic is a trading card game where each player uses a deck of spells to defeat their opponent. So a game goes something like this. I will play my mountain card, tap all my mana to summon a raging goblin, enchanted with fire breathing, to attack you. And I shall block your goblin with my Aisling leprechaun, who bears the twice best shillelagh of Evermore. And basically this goes back and forth until the king of the nerds is crowned. Pre-COVID, I used to love to go to Muse Comics and play Magic on Friday nights. What is the difference between a woman at Friday Night Magic and a unicorn? The guys at Friday Night Magic are not afraid of unicorns. The other thing that I like to nerd out over, or one of my other loves, is Star Wars. This is true. The very first movie that I ever saw in the theater was the original Star Wars. Shout out to my mom and Aunt Lois for taking me to that. Because when you see Star Wars in the theater as a kid, it is the coolest thing. I remember The Empire Strikes Back with that epic, battle on the ice planet Hoth with the speeders and the walkers. And then Luke Skywalker flies his X-Wing fighter to Dagobah and crashes it into the swamp. And he finds this little wrinkled, weazened old dude with wrinkly green skin and wispy white hair, Ozzy Osbourne. But I love all the Star Wars movies. Even the new ones are cool. I like in The Last Jedi, when Rey is completing her Jedi training, and she's in this mystical cavern, and she's confronted with infinite images of herself, and she snaps her fingers, and it echoes through time all the way back. I just think that scene would be funnier if instead of snapping her fingers, she would have farted. Think about it. The other thing that I love is music. I love Tool. Tool is my favorite band. Their new album came out after 13 years of waiting. Totally worth the wait. Every song is amazing. The other night I was listening to it, and my partner and I, we walked our dogs through the woods and came back, and only 2 songs had played. So now I know that trail takes 20 minutes to walk. I got to see Tool in Spokane in March. It was one of the last shows, one of the last big events before everything shut down. And it was like one of the most amazing shows you'll ever see. There was this driving, intricate, complex music with all these video screens and lasers and lights, and the whole arena was like lit up, and I felt like I was standing in the sun. And if you would have asked me, hey, do you see that giant rotating human head hovering over the crowd? I'd have said, whoa, do you see it too? But yeah, I love classic rock. I think that Amazon should use the Judas Priest song, "You've Got Another Thing Coming," in their commercials. I love classic rock, even if the lyrics don't make very much sense. Like Thin Lizzy, "Tonight there's gonna be a jailbreak somewhere in the town, but probably at the jail." Yeah, I went to a rock show right before COVID, you know. It was at the Top Hat. The band was called Eve 6. And Eve 6 is what Bozeman would be if Bozeman was a band. And I realize why I don't like the crowd at the Top Hat. It's for the same reason that I don't like the New York Yankees. They all look like cops. It's like I'm used to going to a rock show where there's 200 people on drugs and one narc. At the Top Hat, it's 200 people drinking IPAs and me. But it was a really wild show. I was getting pushed all around, you know. I got pushed backwards into this guy, and I felt like I ran into a brick wall. I mean, this guy was completely solid. So I turned around to look at him, and he had his arms crossed, and they were right here on me. And I thought, damn, this guy must be like 5'10". I wonder, is there an alternate universe where Ted Nugent died young and is considered the greatest guitar player of all time? And Jimi Hendrix is a bitter old conspiracy theorist that everybody hates? All right, I got one more for you, then I'm done. What does Rob Zombie use to make chili? More cumin than cumin. All right, thank you all very much. Thank you for watching. You should go out and buy Onishi Press Anthology number 10, because our next comedian also has a story in that anthology. It's called Quantum. And please put your hands together and welcome to the stage Lenny Peppers.
Thanks, James. Hey, everyone. How is it going? It's good to see you guys all here tonight. My name is Lenny Peppers. My comedy name is Bear With Me, because it's been a long time since I've done this. During that long time, I've had a lot of time to think, and I kind of have this theory, and it's kind of a hot take, so hear me out. I think that if mythical creatures existed, humans would totally eat them. Yeah. For instance, we have like the elf. Elves are awesome. There are tons of different flavors of elf. Christmas, cookie. And another good thing is I hear that they have an excellent shelf life. Oh, you guys know what I'm talking about. Then of course we have like the unicorn, speaking of shelf life. And my question is do unicorns have a half shelf life? Yeah. The thing about unicorns, though, is that your husband always wants to show them. So, you know. Some questions that I have are like, what would I serve with my corn on the chupacabra? I think I would go with the Chimera sampler plate because it's just a little bit of everything. Some other questions I've asked myself are about the ethics of eating mythical creatures. First off, we have like creatures like mermaids and centaurs. And the big question is like, where do you stop on like that meat chart? Like where's the little red dotted line drawn before you're like a cannibal? Yeah, I think that like on the MERS stump, it would be like down here somewhere. Or like that's too high. That's too high. The good thing about the mermaid, though, is that, like, if you get the right cut, like, you have both surf and turf. So that's cool. Then, of course, there are, like, making sure that your Minotaur is, like, labyrinth safe. And you have to check that little can of, like, Cthulhu every time that you get one to make sure that it says Kraken friendly. That brings me to another question that I have about mythical beasts and eating them, and that, of course, is food prep. For the Kraken, or for the Cthulhu, you have to make sure that you don't overcook it, or else it's all rubbery. But then, of course, if you undercook it, it drives you insane. Then we have, like, the Phoenix. Every time you order the Phoenix, it takes so long for the waiter to bring it out that it's burnt. And it's good, though, because all you have to do is wait for it to loop back around to rare again. So that's a good one. What else in terms of food prep? There's the all-you-can-eat varieties, like the Hydra. Like, I just had a mental picture of some guy in back, like, lopping off Hydra heads and serving them up. I think that Mogwai could also be all-you-can-eat. Yeah, you just add water. Yeah. And the good thing about Mogwai is that they're really, really easy to cook. You just expose them to sunlight. But you don't want to eat them after midnight or else you'll get a tummy ache. The final question I have about mythical creatures is, like, obviously you're going to want to take pictures of them to show everyone that you've eaten one. But the pictures, I think, would come out blurry, like, every single time. Like, how do you know if this is a picture of your Yeti spaghetti? Or maybe it's just a guy in a ghillie suit, I don't know. All right, everyone. Welcome to the ZACC tonight. It's so great to be here. Next on the list is Jordan Demander, and he is a self-proclaimed critters expert. So everybody welcome Jordan to the stage. Lenny Peppers, good night.
Thanks. Keep it going for Lenny, you guys. I am a self-proclaimed critters expert. I don't think I need to tell you guys that today is National Critters Appreciation Day. Obviously, you all knew that already. It's a little frustrating. I feel like critters are kind of the most underrepresented group of the horror movie franchises, largely because of Gremlins. Everyone thinks Critters ripped off Gremlins. Clearly, that's not the case. Don't get me wrong, I like Gremlins. Probably the best Christmas movie ever. In the same way that Critters 2 is the best Easter movie ever. And I know this is kind of a hot topic, so I'm just going to say it. Critters 2 is not the best Critters sequel. Critters 4 is the best sequel. I'm not trying to start any arguments. This is weird PG-13 set, so I think I get like several shits and one cleverly placed F-bomb. Is that how? I can kind of just keep saying shit over and over again. And Gremlins is part of the reason that we have the stupid PG-13 rating in the first place. Bunch of scared little kids in 1984 couldn't handle seeing some Gremlins. Steven Spielberg puts his face in there. Oh, PG-13 comes along. Critters is obviously the superior franchise. I mean, Critters 3 has Leonardo DiCaprio in it. Does Gremlins 3 have Leonardo DiCaprio? No, because there is no Gremlins 3, because they weren't cool enough to get a third movie. I'm a little shaky. It's not because I drank all night last night. It's my Mario Kart injury acting up here. I got a bad case of mock bike elbow. gets a little stiff sometimes. I was up drinking, though. I have kind of a condition. Once I start drinking, I can't leave where I am until someone asks me to leave. It's like I'm a reverse vampire. Someone has to ask me to leave. But yeah, critters talk. Critters talk. Last time I did comedy before things shut down, it was in Hot Springs, Montana. Ooh, Hot Springs, Montana. And I was hoping to touch base with a buddy of mine that lived over there, but I was informed that he had been run out of town. You guys ever been to a town so small that they just run people out of town? It's like you don't even have to be doing anything illegal. It's like sheriff can just come up to you because they've only got one cop, and he's like, well, Bill, it's not that we don't like you, but we all overheard you at the bar the other night talking about how you were Team Angel, and this is the Team Spike town, so we all talked about it. You're going to have to get out of town. Run them out of town. Like a lot of nerds, I don't do well with ladies, really, or anything with ladies, really. I did recently get dumped. You guys ever been dumped out there? Room full of nerds. And breaking up is actually really hard to do. Like being the person who breaks up with the other person is really hard. Getting dumped is easy. I mean, I've been dumped several times, and all I had to do was basically nothing to make that happen. But she was cool about it. It wasn't because I'm a nerd. You know, she sat me down and gave me the old, it's not you, it's COVID. That old gem. We've all been there. I think we also need to remember that the first Critters movie introduced us all to Billy Zane. You guys know who Billy Zane is? Yeah, you all think Titanic would have been as good without Billy Zane in it. That's not a Titanic I want to watch. I want Billy Zane up in there. Mike was talking about weddings. I don't really understand that. I probably will never get married for a whole list of reasons. But it just feels like that's like picking like one movie that you love and just deciding to rewatch that same movie over and over and over again the rest of your entire life and never watching another movie. Like I love the movie Predator. Clearly it's the best movie of all time, but am I really going to just sit and watch Predator over and over and over again? And I will for a while. But after a few weeks, I start seeing trailers for other movies, and I want to watch those movies. I have to remember that the trailers always just show you the best part. There's no way those new movies are as good as Predator, the best movie ever. But then it's like 6 months goes by, and you're starting to learn some things about Predator that you didn't know before, like Predator's adorable drinking problem, and the way that Predator chews their food, all annoying sounding. But you stick with it because that's what you do, right? Married people, I know you're out there. It's a sacred bond. You stick with it. Finally, it gets to the point where every time I watch Predator, I just pretend like I'm watching Alien to make it a little bit more enjoyable. But I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop watching Predator because I'm super paranoid and I'm afraid that one of my friends might start watching Predator. Then I just remember that it's Missoula and all my friends have already seen Predator anyway. Because that's how this shit works. Shit, yeah. That's how it works. Are vaginas PG-13? Good to know. I'll keep that in mind. It's true, though. People that know me know that recently I have not really been respecting myself. I've been disrespecting myself. I guess is that the word? I've been disrespecting. That's the word. Been disrespecting myself. It's kind of embarrassing. I have a confession. The other night I did play Magic the Gathering with my friend. Something that I had sworn I would never do. I don't feel too bad about it. Also, I've been microdosing meth, so there's that. Cooler than playing Magic. I used to be a cocky nerd because I was a comic book nerd, and I thought I was too cool for all the D&D nerds and the Magic nerds, and I still think that. But it's I was actually saved by the Satanic Panic. I got invited as a kid to go play D&D with someone, and my mom had heard that it was satanic, and she refused to let me play D&D. And of course, years later, I realized she was doing me a huge favor. A huge fucking favor. Sorry, that's my one F-bomb. PG-13. I'm going to leave you guys just with, I'm going to write the punch or the joke, and you can all just imagine your own punchline. Because this joke's pretty bad, actually. All I have to say is that my ex-girlfriend's vagina is kind of like a gremlin. There are rules. Take it from there. Anyway, thanks you guys. I'm excited about the next performer. We have a doctor in the house, and I'm pretty sure he's got some things to say. Get up here, doctor. Get up here.
Clearly, someone doesn't know my intro. That's Dr. Mansplain to you. Thank you. Now, let's just jump right into it because I don't have a lot of time. The ZACC is not paying for my overpriced speaking fee, so we're going to be very particular about this evening. We're here to discuss one thing that is oversized and unused at its fullest potential, the nerd brain. That's right, it is broken up into 3 different compartments. They have scientific words for this, but I'm not even going to use them on this crowd because they're too busy thinking about critters. First of all, we have the first part of the brain, the knowledge part of the brain. This is the most useless part of the nerd brain. They basically have terabytes full of information stuck here of things that they've researched on Wikipedia, YouTube, Reddit, whatever the IMDb is called these days. This is where that information goes. This information is the kind of information like how many Critters movies are there? That's one thing that you find in there. Another thing you also find is like what films did Peter Jackson actually direct? That's in there. Another thing that's in there is how many spell slots do I have as an 8th level wizard in 3rd edition D&D? This you know. You also have stuck inside of this knowledge the 4-button combo for every fatality from Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat 2. It's in there and you know it's in there. Now, once you get that knowledge, you then must form an opinion. And that's where we go over to this side of the brain. This is the side of the brain where most people, it has a fight or flight mechanism. But in the brain world of the nerd, it is an argument or flee mentality. So a nerd will hear something, let's say, at a party, in a kitchen. They'll hear something like, oh, Evil Dead 2 is better than the Army of Darkness. Or they'll hear something like, oh, you know what? The best Nightmare on Elm Street movie is Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Now, the nerd can take this information in their brain, and they can even be like, I'm not going to talk to that person, they're dumb, and walk away. Or they can instantly make eye contact and engage for an hour of arguments. So basically, it either happens in the kitchen that they argue, it happens in dive bars, it happens smoking outside of dive bars. This is where they will argue, and most of the time it will end kind of like, well, let's just agree to disagree, wasting everyone's time. Now, where this gets more complicated is in the last 30 years, the invention of the World Wide Web. This allows nerds to go on to any format and share their opinion, whether arguing about who casted who or who directed who, allowing them to be very susceptible to a certain kind of sickness in the nerd brain, and that is the troll venom. The troll venom will then enter into your brain, making you rabid and basically an intolerable asshole to all of your friends. Do not become this person. Now, once you've utilized all of your knowledge, once you've utilized your opinion, we have the creation zone of your nerd brain. This is where you write your fan fiction. This is where you write your own comic book. This is where you become your own dungeon master for a 5e D&D campaign. This is where it is. But you must realize there is one thing that can derail any nerd brain: sexual fantasies. That's right. It'll take you 5 years to write the screenplay to the sequel of The Dark Crystal. And when you're working on it, you'll be just about done and then immediately think, where can I put Pokemon toys erotically on my body? And then you will forever lose that project forever. So we must think here tonight, folks. We must allow nerds to be sexual. We must allow their urges to break out for several reasons. Not only will I no longer look weird in the bedroom, but the other reason is we'll allow things to be more creative. They'll allow things to be less argumentative. Hopefully the internet will get better. And finally, they're allowed to share knowledge that I probably won't read or listen to. And if this is what you're like, that actually doesn't concern me. I get sex all the time. Well, let me tell you, I will offer you a free consultation to help you get better as a nerd. It only costs $100 for 15 minutes, and I'll be very demeaning and talk down to you the whole time. You won't even understand what's going on because I am Dr. Mansplain. Now, before I leave, because I didn't really want to be here anyway, because I can't talk all that well, I encourage all of you to wear your masks. All right, do it. Because let's face it, I have 3 boats, and I want to be on Flathead Lake, and I do not want to work any overtime, so wear your goddamn mask. Let's bring up your next comic all the way from over there. I am Dr. Mansplain. Let's bring it up for a nerd that I was probably talking about earlier. Please welcome to the stage Tim Miller, everyone.
Give up for Dr. Mansplain. It's the last time I'm going to touch that mic stand tonight, so. No, I won't. Okay. How do Wookiees like their cookies? Chewy. Slow laugh, that's fine. What instrument does the Riddler play? A conundrum. Why doesn't Darth Vader like to go back to Mustafar? Because it cost him an arm and a leg the first time. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, this is happening. I'm just going to hold this shirt. I don't want to put it on stage and then whatever. Yeah, I'm glad to be here because I am a pretty big nerd, you know. You can call me the king nerd if you want. I've had quite a few nerd flings in my time. Probably more nerd flings than regular flings. Okay, you guys just agree with me. That's why you're not laughing. It's fine. But I have 3 great nerd loves. I have my first nerd love, which is Star Wars, the one that took my virginity. Then I have Batman, which is like my most consistent nerd love, the one that's like always there for me. But then I have my one true nerd love, which is Arrested Development. Our time together is very special. Our nerd making's like the best ever. Talking multiple nerdgasms. Yeah. If you think about it, like I have, Batman and Fox Mulder, Agent Mulder from X-Files are basically the same character. You know, they were both like formed by like a family trauma when they were kids. They're both named after a hairy animal. Batman's named after man or bat, either one. And Agent Motor is named after Fox, which is the real mystery in X-Files is why his parents named him Fox, I think. Yeah. So they both like took this childhood trauma and it like forced them to like dedicate their life to fighting crime, or in Motor's case, fighting crime and aliens, which would be a book I would read or write. Crime and Aliens, coming this fall to somewhere, wherever books are sold anymore. And they both have like partners that like kind of keep them grounded, and like fans want to see them like romantically connect with. But real life fans know that they're just better as like platonic friends. You know, like Motor has Scully, and Batman has Commissioner Gordon. No. Is everyone enjoying the set? Everyone having a good weekend? That's great. I don't really care. I'm not great with small talk. I can see the weather outside. I don't need to talk to you about it. I probably don't care about your kids. And I most likely hate your job more than I hate my own, so let's not talk about stuff. And I'm not emotionally vulnerable enough or like interesting enough to engage in like big talk, large talk, gigantic talk, whatever you want to call it. I'm a comedian, not an astrophysicist. Don't ask me about the universe. You can, but don't. So I guess I'm just a fan of medium talk. You know, things like what's your third biggest fear? Who was your third biggest crush? What are your thoughts on Season 3, Episode 14 of Arrested Development? There's only 13 episodes in Season 3 because it got canceled. Just like this set. I'm canceling this set, so yeah. Give up for Duane Raider. He's up next.
Super ready for that, Tim. Thank you. Oh, wow. Big round of applause for everyone who's gone so far, yeah? Everyone who's going to be going, also funny. Very good. Thanks to the Zach and Amy for putting this on. Where is Amy? I can't see it, whatever. Nerd comedy show, fantastic idea. Love it, nerd comedy. Great idea, great idea. The problem with a nerd comedy show... No, the problem with a nerd comedy show is I'm trying to write jokes for this. And, you know, I'm thinking it's going to be like self-deprecating. But and then I realized that nerd identity is no longer an awkward, horrible thing. Like, nerd identity is now as mainstream as rolling up the sleeves on your sports coat in 1984. Like, it's not a problem anymore. Outside of the cultural time, sure, maybe you're like really messing up those sleeves, you're ruining that jacket. But like inside the context of the culture right now, it's, you know, it's fine. You can be a nerd. You can watch cartoons and be like 38, whatever. I was a teenager in the latter half of the 90s, which was the heyday of bleached tips and toxic masculinity, where if you wanted to read a monster manual, you did it in private, alone in your bedroom. And if anyone asked what you were doing, you just told them you were masturbating. Like, are you reading that Gygax shit in there? No, Mom, I'm discovering my body. Good, because I want grandkids someday. Well, don't get me wrong, I like that it's mainstream now. Because now it's mainstream means I can be an adult and read comic books and watch cartoons and also have sex with, like, real human people. Like, great, wonderful. But it's not deprecating. All that being said, I think that Jonathan Hickman's work with Marvel on the X-Verse over the last 2 years is some of the more poignant social commentary about how to achieve racial equality in our time. Either that or it's a giant white supremacist manifesto. I'm not entirely sure which. See, according to Battlestar Galactica, I'm at least 1/1000th cyborg, and it's that cybertronic part of my brain that just can't understand metaphor. Like, just doesn't get it. And if I spoiled Battlestar Galactica for any of you, good, frack you. It's been fracking 15 fracking years. What the frack? Get with it. Most of these jokes are going to be directed at like one person who's going to laugh. Now, what is the statute of limitations on spoilers, right? Like, at some point, isn't it your fault for not catching up? Like, how long do I have to wait to talk about things that I like in public? Like, did you know Darth is Luke's dad? What? What? Did you know Mother is also a necromancer? What? Did you know the end of Lost was very disappointing? I'm sorry about that Raised by Wolves reference. That show's only like 2 weeks old. That was totally a spoiler, but it's like first episode information, so I'm not giving away a whole lot. But no, as we all know, the X-Men came around in the 60s and was a giant allegory for like the social movements that were going on at the time. The mutants were like the minorities who were trying to like find a way to exist with the human society, right? And as time went on, Chris Claremont in the 80s did a whole run of the X-Men that was all about AIDS, a virus that like only mutants got. But then it turns out that people, like regular non-mutant people, were also getting the virus, and then the government started to care about it. In the 90s, things got ultra-violent. All the muscles and tits got bigger, and that was an allegory for small dicks, I guess. And then now Jonathan Hickman, who's taken over like 6 different titles of the X-Verse, is writing a story in which all of the mutants have set up an island nation, and they're inviting all mutants to come and be a citizen of their island nation. And they're pushing the legitimacy of that nation through onto world governments through diplomacy, and also a little bribery, and some espionage, and controlling the black markets, and just some outright violence. And I think the message that Hickman is trying to say with this is that in any revolution against like a violent organization, you can't always be peaceful. Sometimes you have to face that violence with violence. That, or he's saying that all minorities should just get the hell out of here and go live on their own island. I'm hoping it's the former. Really hoping it's the former. Since Marvel is a company started by a bunch of nerdy-ass Jewish dudes in the 40s, and they aren't like suddenly deciding to start advertising themselves to the alt-right, like, let's see if we can put up a couple of ads on the Daily Stormer. Like, if any of this has gone over your head, there's one person at home who's like, damn right, damn right. But that's the point of a nerd comedy show, right? Like, I'm supposed to assume that all of you are the same kind of otaku as I am, right? Or maybe your thing's My Little Ponies. I don't know. Whatever you're into. Anyways, that's my spiel. Let's move it on. Our next comedian is really the best dressed for tonight, I must say. Really fits the role. Please welcome Nathan St. Onge.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Just give me a second here. It's just that I've had eyes without a face stuck in my head for 35 years. And sometimes it flares up. It's really distracting. Okay. And another thing is that I did bring some notes here tonight. I hope that doesn't offend anyone, because it's just that while I should have been preparing for this set, instead I was preparing for my next trip to Hobby Lobby, which is more important. And that's okay. So, where was I? Oh, my name is Nathan, and I have done unspeakable things for a Klondike bar. And I guess that's the end of that joke. I cannot tell you the things I've done. Hey, hi everyone at home. Hi everyone here. And hi everyone at home. There's been some mention of the PG-13-ness of this show. I'm not sure what that means. There was a group chat before, and it was suggested that we don't say too many swear words. And that's fine. I don't want to say any swear words. But that's not fun. If there are kids watching at home, I want to actually say something to them. So this is for you. If you're a kid and you're watching this show at home, your parents are... They're all right. I'm sure they're fine. Speaking of which, you've probably noticed, kids, that adults have been a real drag lately. I know, they're always a drag, but seriously, if you're 3 years old and know English, you know they're a drag. But if you're 8 years old, you know they've been a special drag lately. And that's because the world is on fire and probably going to burn forever. For reasons that you will probably never understand. But I want to tell you, your parents are too tired to punish you right now. They can't do it. They're distracted. They've got the world on their hands. So all rules are off. Sorry, parents. You don't have to go to bed tonight or ever again. You don't have to eat your vegetables or use your words. They cannot catch up to you. You are essentially the least of their problems. So cut loose, form an alliance, take over the world. I think that would be good. Sorry, parents, for that. Can I tell some jokes? You want to hear some jokes? I might have a couple of jokes. Would you guys like to hear a joke I wrote about refrigerators and that it's also about economics? Yeah? Okay. So it turns out that food waste has gone up 40% since the advent of refrigerators. Well, I don't know much about economics, but I think it's safe to say that the refrigerator is a gross domestic product. Yeah, I don't know. Something like that. I realized recently that grammar completely ruined my life. Yeah. I spent all those years trying to figure things out when I should have been trying to figure out things. So I'm doing that now. Hey, am I the only one that keeps their milk and cheese on one specific shelf in the refrigerator? Yeah, I do that. I call it my dairy area. I like those food products. To my chagrin, I am intolerant of other people's lactose. No. Something like that. I have some COVID jokes. Would you guys like to hear my COVID jokes? kids in bed now? Yeah, they're fucking in bed now. That's got to be the case. COVID jokes. You know, coronavirus makes 9/11 look like 9/10. Because, you know, there wasn't much going on that day. Nobody really remembers. 9/11 just came and went. Nobody said shit. That was kind of weird. We really did forget. We forgot. That's not interesting anymore because of this. Oh, that's rough. You know, I couldn't get my hands on a coronavirus test. So just to play it safe, I took the first test I could get my hands on. And it turns out that I can type 45 words per minute. Is that good? Seriously, is that any good? Is that any good at all? No? Entry-level data clerk job level? Can do that? I don't know. Shit. Is it okay if we try that one again? Let's run that one a different way. I couldn't get my hands on a coronavirus test, so just to play it safe, I took the first test I could get my hands on, and it turns out that I am not good boyfriend material. I already knew that. I was just bored. Yeah. Another COVID joke. Jesus Christ. If you have a current restraining order against someone, are they required to add social distance? And therefore remain 306 feet away at all times? Those are my COVID jokes. Thank you. You know, something interesting happened on my way over to the venue here tonight. I witnessed two people carrying a washing machine. I thought, geez, if I had a dolly for every time I saw that, I could help. That would be awesome. Yeah, grammar, language jokes. Oh, you know, it wasn't my plan to become a comedian. I wanted to be a poet. But the comedian in me always ruined that, you know. Every time I try to flush out a simile, comedian me ruined everything. An example might be, the light in your eyes is like so bright. I don't know. Yeah. Language jokes. People, a lot of folks tend to misuse the word utilize, or as they would have you believe, they misutilize it. Gosh, that's rough. That's really rough. And what's worse is, that's all I have. Our next act is a human being that is willing to spend time with me alone occasionally, which makes him my best friend. Ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary friends, Austin Valley.
Thank you, Nathan. Keep it going for Nathan. I love Nerd Nathan. Nerd Nathan's great. The microphone smells weird. It's like, just joking. I lost my sense of smell 2 days ago. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I'm having a hard time writing jokes lately because I just don't know which reality I am in anymore. I don't know which reality other people are in. There seems to be about several different realities going on. It's like, you guys remember that debate that was making the rounds online a few years back? There was the Laurel and Yanni debate, and you'd play a sound clip. Half the people heard Laurel, and the other half of the people heard Yanni. I kind of feel like our entire country is having a similar debate, but about all of reality. What is going on? It's like half the country is hearing Laurel, and the other half of the country isn't even listening. What is happening? The COVID it's crazy. I'm gonna go into some COVID before I do the nerd stuff, but I knew we were in it for the long haul when our reaction as a nation to this, our response to this crisis as a God-fearing nation was to stand up and go out and buy all the toilet paper. We hoarded toilet paper. We could have just been hoarding Beanie Babies at that point. Like, it makes no sense that we're just like not putting on masks and just wiping our ass like I have rights to this. I don't get it. Well, it does make sense to have that response to hoard toilet paper, considering the amount of shit that's just coming out of our president's mouth on a daily basis. All right? I said shit. We've all said it. This show is not PG-13 anymore. We've said shit too many times. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because, you know what? Despite what Nathan was saying, kids are not watching this right now. There's no way there's children watching this show. Like, I know that, like, why would they spend their Saturday evenings watching a bunch of 30 to 40-year-olds talk about their alcoholism or, like, their X-Men fantasies? Or they're not doing it. I know that because I know personally that every child under the age of 14 right now is currently under the Madison Street Bridge drinking, like, twisted teas and smoking cigarettes. Have you guys seen this over the summer? The, like, city of lost children that is just, like, taken over Madison Street Bridge. And, like, they're seriously, they're one samurai master away from becoming the Foot Clan. If it's any, not even a samurai master, just a regular old black belt. If Ian St. Onge just walked up to the toughest kid and just karate chopped him in the throat and was like, we're stealing televisions now. That's how you get the Foot Clan. That would be the Foot Clan. You just give them some cigarettes, you give them some samurai swords, and push them towards a life of crime. And they'd be like, yes, Sensei St. Onge. I love your metal mask. You're really tough. You're really cool. And then, you know, Sensei St. Onge is like, I got regular or I got menthol. They are not watching. I do know one person in particular that is watching tonight, all the way from New Haven, Connecticut. My girlfriend, Angela. Hello, babe. I love you. I miss you. I will see you soon. Oh, Angela. I call her my little angel, which is really upsets her. She doesn't like when I call her Angel, because more specifically, I call her a 4/4 flying angel with vigilance. She hates it. She hates it. I do play magic cards. I played a lot. I got a lot of them. I have a lot of decks, and I like to name my decks. I have like an all-zombie tribal deck, and it's called Night of the Living Deck. right? That's something for me. Do that for me. I have a all-flying creature deck that has spells that specifically target my enemy's flying creatures, and that deck is called Flyer Walk With Me. And if you catch that reference, meet me in the alley. I will have sex with you. Sorry, Angela, but you know how much of a Twin Peaks fan I am. I will have sex with you if you get that reference. And then I do have a deck. We're going to go into a weird place. I have a deck that's called, it's an all-white deck, and it's called White Privilege, and it never loses. It never loses. It never does. But it's kind of, well, I do instill my own rules when I play that deck. One, my opponents start with 5 hit points. I get 105 hit points to start. I can draw any amount of cards I want to, and you don't get to draw any cards. And blue creatures they cannot kill my white creatures. They just can't. They can only kill the black creatures. And we don't even play with the red creatures. The red creatures are gone from the game. We just let them play on a little table to the side that used to be theirs, and I took it from them, and I let them play on it. They can play Candy Crush or something. There's not even red creatures. It's just my white creatures and these blue creatures that can only kill the black creatures. And yeah, it never loses. It always wins. I'm filled with white mana guilt every time I win with it. And you know what? Everyone, thank you so much. That is my set. So I am going to pass the mic to one of my favorite comedians. She hosts the 10 Spoon Winery Show. The next one is September 24th. Coming up at 7 o'clock. It's a great time. Please make it up. Everyone, Sarah Aswell.
Keep it going for Austin, everybody. Hooray, Austin. I also want to put this up again. This is for the short bus, which is an amazing dream. And you just have to enter these easy, 7. givebutter.com/X5HWP7. I feel like we need a mnemonic. I love the word mnemonic because it needs a mnemonic to spell it. Is that enough time? All right. Let's go for it. This is my first virtual pandemic show. So, yeah. I'm excited about it. I want to apologize for the pandemic because it's my fault. So my birthday was on March 6, 2020, and I blew out my candles and I made a wish. I wished that all the anti-vaxxers would die. And it's one of those things, it's like, be careful what you wish for, because you don't know how it's going to happen. But fuck those people also. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say shit. I'm the biggest nerd. I just read Moby Dick. Yeah. Moby Dick, it's supposed to be the best novel in the entire English language and history. And I'm not sure if that's the case. I just don't know. I do think that it is the best novel in the English language that's ever been written with Dick in the title, which is a little different. The next runner-up is pretty far down. It doesn't even have whales in it. So, yeah. It's the nerd show tonight. My friend says that there are 3 types of nerds: nerds, geeks, and dorks. And I was like, way to tell on yourself for being a fucking dork. Jesus. No one else would ever say that. But I feel like I have to say this. A lot of great nerds have come up tonight. I'm not a cool nerd like the rest of you. I'm not a horror movie nerd. I'm not an anime nerd. I'm not a gamer nerd. I'm not a Star Trek nerd. I'm like the nerd that you don't hear about because it's too nerdy. Like I'm like the Jane Austen, loose leaf tea, crochet nerd. Yeah, like the not cool nerd. Okay. And it's fine, except that I don't know where my nerd's at. I don't know where my nerds are at. I'm like, hey, Jane Austen nerds, where are you at? And they're like, well, we're reading Jane Austen alone in our houses with some loose leaf tea. Where are my crochet nerds at? And they can't raise their hands. You know, where are my wildflower identification nerds? And they're in the mountains. They're in the mountains right now. You know, picking chamomile for their tea. That's where my nerds are. It's not helpful. It's like a feminine nerd thing. I think we should do that. I'm the type of nerd that gets angry when I'm reading books to my children and the sun is depicted as wearing sunglasses. No, that gets me mad. Why is the sun wearing sunglasses? It's the only thing in the entire universe that does not need to wear sunglasses. Like, oh, I have to protect myself from me with these me glasses. Oh. That would be like if we depicted, like in cartoons and stuff, like the ocean wearing a personal flotation device. Yeah, and why is the sun always smiling? Like it's implied the sun is smiling because the sun is out, which means the sun has to smile all day, every day. Like, oh, I'm around. It must be a great day to have that confidence. Yeah, I like to think that when the sun sets, it like makes a beautiful sunset and then like leans against the mountains in the background. It's like, oh, I'm so tough. I don't know. What level of nerd am I? I feel like I lost your confidence when I said I was a Jane Austen crochet nerd. I want to bring that back. Huge nerd, okay? I'm such a big nerd, I lettered in 2 things in high school. I lettered in band. 1 woo. Okay, that's good. It was the sound guy, too. We know. And I lettered in math team. Band and math team. I got 2 letters. And they tried to sell me the letter jacket with the leather arms to put my letters on. I was like, it's really expensive. Thanks. Could you just beat me up for free? That would be great. Yeah, I'm not going to wear my band letter on a letter jacket at all. They really tried in high school to make the nerd things like sports, right? Like math team. Like we were just the same as the football team. And it just wasn't true. Like my parents never came to my math team competitions, let alone any other audience. It just didn't happen. We had no cheerleaders at math team. Like we had to cheer ourselves, like secant, tangent, cosine, sine, 3.14159. It was that sad. Yeah, I lettered in band. That's what happened. What else? I was part of the Physics Olympics in high school. Another time that they tried to make nerd shit sound like sports shit when it really wasn't. I'm like, I don't have to wear special shoes to this. Does not count. Yeah, I went to the Physics Olympics. My event was that they gave me a bunch of magnets and wire and told me to make a perpetual motion machine. Yeah, and I think I'm still winning that. Only 2 physics people left. Yeah, no, I'm such a nerd. I only got sent to the principal once during high school, and it was for creating a new religion. Yeah, they were like, don't do that. And I was like, hey, I just made a sacred text, and what my followers do has nothing to do with me. Okay. But they took away my photocopy privilege, which only, was for the math team. Oh. Thank you so much for having me. Next up, we have, yes, thanks. Next up, we have Lynn Solomon. She's performing again here at the ZACC on October 24th, so tune in then. Here she comes.
Put your hands together for Sarah Aswell. I also was a math nerd, and I didn't let her in band, but I was a Jubilette, Helena Capital High School. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. So I was so excited tonight because I'm sort of an 11th hour addition to the lineup tonight. I wasn't really planning on being here tonight, and my dear friend Amy sent me a frantic text saying, Lynn, would you like to do a set tonight? And I thought, I have really arrived on the Missoula comedy scene. And then she said, well, it's the nerd show. So I folded up my crossword book, and I turned off the golf that I was listening to on the radio, and said, sure, I would love to do a set. Nathan talks about grammar. I'm a word nerd. I am not a Star Wars nerd. I'm not a Star Trek nerd. I'm not a Tolkien nerd. I'm not a D&D nerd. I am a word nerd. My sister says that she used to write me letters when I was in college, and I would red mark them up and mail them back to her. I don't remember it that way, but doggone it, she should be grateful. Am I right? So I talk a lot about the online dating thing. There was a guy online, and one of his things, he says, one of the things I love, and he said, spell check. And so I thought, oh, this is my kind of guy. So I sent him a message, and I said, you love spell check? You'll be impressed to know that I was the 1980 representative to the state spelling bee on behalf of Lewis and Clark County. And he never replied. Yeah. So COVID, right? I know we won't do COVID jokes, but you can't really get around it, right? I mean, mostly I am just so grateful to be here. I'm grateful to not be home, braless, watching my 9th episode of The First 48. Do y'all ever watch The First 48, speaking of nerds? Thank you. The best part about The First 48 is at the beginning when they go, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Mobile, Alabama. Yeah, something bad always happens. There's some sort of murder and dreadful things happen. Speaking about dating sites, you guys who have heard my jokes know that I talk a lot about dating site jokes. I had a really strange weekend last weekend. I got messages from a guy who was 78. And I got a message from a guy who was 73. But the most interesting thing was a few weeks ago I got a message from a guy who was 70. And the message, all it said was, oh, if only I were 10 years younger. And I thought, or more. But then the good part, the interesting part was when he messaged me again, and by this point, he was 71. And I'm pretty sure he forgot that he messaged me the first time. Yeah, and people ask me like, well, is he rich? Does he have a nasty cough? I said we didn't really get that far. Getting back to COVID, and like I said, I'm a word nerd, so I talk a lot about how we communicate. And I really believe that the pandemic has changed the way we communicate with one another. I think there are certain words and certain phrases that they'll never quite mean the same thing. Front lines and uncertain times. And I've had this strange interaction, and this is largely with my female friends, but not necessarily solely with my female friends, but ladies, folks, back me up on this. This strange exchange where you go, Michael, I love your mask. It's super cute. It makes your eyes pop. Where did you get it? Yeah, that was funnier the last time I did it. The other thing I thought about, well, wouldn't it be cool if you could have a mask? I have a mask that says be kind. It has a mask with a message. Wouldn't it be cool if you could have a mask? I'm pretty certain I am the oldest person in the room, so I'm pretty sure, do any of you remember mood rings? And it was this mood ring, and it was a ring you'd put on, and it would change color depending on your mood. Then I got older, and I realized, it's body temperature, Lynn. But wouldn't it be cool if you had a mood mask? And the mask would just it could express your mood like a crawler across the bottom of ESPN or CNN or one of those things. And it could say whatever was going on in your mind. Like, I'm crying inside. Bring me Dairy Queen. Shut the fuck up. Okay. Another part of COVID, I have taken a job. I work in the COVID business, which I'll just leave it at that. But I was having a conversation with someone about the COVID test, and the COVID test is where you put this gigantic Q-tip up your nose. I had one, the COVID test. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it wasn't uncomfortable. I thought it went fairly quickly. It really wasn't a big deal. So I was having a conversation with this person who I didn't really know that well. It was a woman, and she said, we were talking about the test, and she was very nervous about it, and she says, well, how does the COVID test compare to getting an IUD? And I said, A, I don't know. B, that ship has sailed. C, it's not really apples to apples. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was a brief conversation. Another pandemic thing that has changed with me as I have started, speaking of nerds, is I started doing Instacart. I do grocery shopping and I deliver groceries for strangers. It is fascinating. So they send me their list and they send me photos and I go shopping for them. And I've decided there's sort of different categories of people who do the Instacart thing, who get someone else to shop for them. There's the ones who, they all want vegan this and gourmet, organic this, and they only want eggs that were loved by their mother and no gluten and no dairy and no whatnot. And then they always throw in, you can tell there's always like that one thing where they're like, screw it, and they get a 5-pound bag of tater tots. And then there are the people who, they don't even pretend anymore. Their shopping list is entirely like Fruity Pebbles, taquitos. Yeah, we got to laugh for taquitos. And then one time, I did this one order one time, and it was all like ho-hos and ding-dongs and Twinkies and snowballs and all those sort of processed baked goods. And then there was like a couple cans of SpaghettiOs, and then there was like deviled ham, like meat in a can. And all I could think of was, these people are stoned. Or my good friend Amy pointed out, they may have a 4-year-old. I have decided that Instacart should branch off. It shouldn't just solely be about groceries, right? You could do Insta-art, where I deliver your groceries and then I pause and talk about how things are pedantic and pedestrian and don't really represent what's going on in the real world. There could be Insta-Bart, where I deliver your groceries and then I do a one-woman recitation of an entire Simpsons episode. There could be Insta-Tart, where I not only deliver your groceries, but a little dessert, if you know what I'm saying. I also have realized that with Instacart, I don't really, in all the pandemic stuff and all the stress and all the sort of almost PTSD type things that we've all been going through, I don't really need a shrink. I don't really need counseling, because I have my Instacart rating. Just this week, I went from average to below average. And that sounds about right. My name's Lynn Solomon. Thank you very much. I get the distinct pleasure of introducing our next comedian, really one of my favorite people in this town. This person will be doing a show at the Roxy on the 23rd of this month, and we'll be back here at this building on the 24th, and I hope to be sharing the stage with them then. Put your hands together for August Ansley, please.
Thank you, Lynn. I've started to like the time that I've spent at home because I've started to work through my own problems. For example, I have finally figured out what my sexuality is for the third time. I'm like the Thanos of queerness. I just need the gender stone and the polyamory stone. Can make the other 50% of the population gay. My roommates and I were talking about how shitty this country is, and about how bad the prison system is, and we were talking about how Norway's is much better. Their prisons are nice, and they're actually about rehabilitation. So I was thinking their citizens must be way happier, and that got me thinking. Norwegian Batman is just a therapist. How does that make you feel? Let's talk about your father. Tell me about your childhood. I don't actually really consider myself a nerd. I just get super obsessed with one thing for a long time, so I'll stop questioning my gender. And currently my gender is Doctor Who. Sorry, obsession. My current gender is obsession. Speaking of Doctor Who, I am now going to roast Doctor Who villains, and I have brought visual material in case some of you have not seen Doctor Who, especially those at home. So first off, this is a Zygon. I'll show it to everybody in here. It is a shapeshifter, and yet insists on looking like every Republican's penis. A Zygon is what everyone in the comments section of a news article looks like. This dude looks like an octopus that learned there are hot singles in their area. This is what dudes who complain about women with body hair look like. That's a Zygon. Next up, we have a Dalek. Show everyone that. This is actually the casing for what's riding around inside of it. And what's inside of it looks like someone chewed gum that someone else shat out. The Dalek looks like a garbage can that's ribbed for your pleasure. A Dalek looks like a plumber that got stuck inside a garbage disposal and just pretended like nothing happened. Looks like someone gentrified a dildo. It's like a stove had sex with a lawnmower. That's a Dalek. And this is the creator of the Daleks. This is Davros, which, I know what you're thinking. No, this is not every grandma superimposed into one image. I'll show everyone in the audience here. This is actually the mother of all Karens. He looks like he has an actual valid excuse for not wearing a mask in a store. He looks like he smoked 12 packs of cigarettes for 600 years. Looks like his breath smells like the inside of a muffler. Sorry, this is actually a picture of my dad. I'll move on. This next one is like a one-off character. It appeared in one episode where he went to Mars and this like sentient water possessed people. So this is the Water of Mars monster. It just makes people look like a rejected Muppet. Show that around. Forget to do that. I don't understand how they're filled with water but still have the most chapped lips. That's all I got for that one. This is a Slovene. They're from the planet Raxacoricophalopatorius. Everyone, Raxacoricophalopatorius. Thank you. This is actually just what every baby looks like to me. This is Trump before his spray tan, actually. Looks like Shaq tried to cosplay Mike Wazowski. It's like a 3-year-old made a statue of Mitch McConnell out of boogers. They're gross. They fart all the time. Anyway, that's also me. And this is the new Cyberman. I say new because there's some in the old series. This is the new, vamped up, upgraded, if you will, Cyberman. It's like a garage sale Iron Man. It has the facial expression of when someone says, "Can I ask you a personal question?" This is like if robots and humans switch places in Star Wars and this was Leia. And before like nerds comment on this, I know that a Cyberman is a person that was stripped of emotion and stuck inside a human casing. So, shut up. God, I wish that were me. This one is the old Cybermen from the original series from 60s and 70s. Kind of small, sorry. If that one was the garage sale Iron Man, this one is the Wish.com Iron Man. That's actually a zoomed in picture of 5G. I don't know. It's the LaCroix C-3PO. It's like a PBR tried to cosplay a lighthouse. All right. And this is Cassandra. In the 51st century, she is the last human who has so much work done that she just finally looks like that. Looks like a memory foam mattress before it's given a lobotomy. This is actually the Karen pride flag. No, this is what doctors do to foreskin after circumcising babies. Let's do that and stick it on their wall. I bet sex with her is like throwing a pencil through notebooks. It's Cassandra. And lastly, we have a Centauran. I feel like I'm giving a TED Talk right now. This is a Centauran. They look like someone tried to 3D print a turd. Like someone shoved a sausage into a candle holder. This looks like a fleshlight that won. This is what every dude who says feminism is a cancer looks like. It's their Facebook profile. This is a corn dog that became sentient and immediately married an anti-vaxxer. It's that's all the jokes I have. That's it for me. Thank you. Oh no. Our next comedian has absolutely nothing going on. But he is running the karaoke at the Eagles, but does not want you to come. Zack Jarvis.
That was the nerdiest thing I've ever seen, August, so well done. There's no topping that the rest of the night. This isn't a perfect example of how my year's been going. I'm sitting over there with a 12-pack of Michelob Ultras that I brought for everybody else to share, but I'm just drinking them by myself. Because either nobody wants to come talk to me, or they think I'm that much of an alcoholic. Either way, that's fine. I understand. This is kind of a hard day for me. I was, before this year fell apart and turned to shit, I was supposed to get married today to my fiance. Luckily, I get to see my photographer and DJ here. It's good to see you guys. Play Space Jam whenever you feel like it. But at this point, I was supposed to be like 25 beers deep, dancing to Space Jam with my wife. And instead, I just watched somebody describe every Doctor Who villain, which I'm not sure if that's a downgrade or not. We'll see how the wedding goes next year. I kind of was born to be a nerd. I kind of got into it very early on. Like when I was 6 years old, I got glasses. And after that, it was just decided for me I was a nerd by every bully I ever had. And then during middle school, I really kind of reached peak nerdom, where I was facing like 3 big problems. I was wearing glasses, I had braces, and puberty was just assaulting me. And I had a face only a mother could love, and I don't know whose mother it was because it wasn't mine. I hope to find her someday. If you don't believe me, from grade 7 to 9, there are no photos of me in my house because I was asked to take all the photos. My mom's like, you're tall enough, it'd be perfect. But that was basically my life. And then in high school, it didn't get better because I was kind of a nerd triple threat. I was a drama nerd, I was a newspaper nerd, and I was a speech and debate nerd. And then I realized there's actually a level of nerdom I will never strive to be. In speech and debate in Montana, there's AA schools and then there's ABC schools. And ABC schools had a very specific event that nobody else had in the state, and that was miming. I'm never going to go that low. Like, there's nothing more horrifying than a bunch of kids your age just miming, and some of them would put the makeup on and they didn't talk the whole meet. Like, they were that dedicated to miming that they were silent the whole time. And one time I went to the bathroom and I was washing my hands and I turned around and there was a mime blocking the doorway with mime makeup on, just smiling at me. And I was like, okay, well, I can't talk to him because he's not really going to talk to me back. So I started to kind of mime back. I was like, can I get past you? And he went like this and opened an imaginary door. And I started to go, and then he went, and shut it. Now, I don't know if he was a really good mime or if I was terrified of him, but I thought he actually shut an imaginary door. So I didn't move until he kind of opened it. And then I went through the crack in said imaginary door and ran out of the building. So if you ever think that you're a nerd and you really feel bad about yourself, just remember that there's people that do miming by choice. When there's everything else in speech and debate to do, they chose miming. And I wasn't really good at any of my other nerd things. I mean, I was good at drama, but the problem with drama is like 50% of the people you meet are going to be are like the best people you'll ever meet in your life. And the other 50% are the worst. And there's no middle ground in drama. And I just really hated the other 50%, so I quit. And then I was really bad at newspaper because the only article I remember writing was supporting Indiana Jones 4 and saying it was a good movie. Like, that lives on the internet forever, and I'm really sorry. I lost my nerd cred the minute I wrote that article. And the headline was, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is good. That was the best headline I could come up with that movie. That's about an appropriate amount of enthusiasm for that movie. Earlier, Sarah was talking about how many nerds there are, and I would agree, except I think that there's one subclass of nerd that we forget about, and that is religious nerds. And now I'm not talking to like Catholics, Christians. No, I'm talking about Mormons. Like, they are the nerdiest of all religions because they wrote their own book, and they only hang out by themselves. And if you want to hang out with them, you have to become one of them. Like, I realized a very important lesson when my first girlfriend broke up with me because I wasn't a Mormon, and that is that sometimes there's just something inherently wrong with you that somebody can't get past. And for me, it was the fact that she was a Mormon. And I did try. I tried my best because I did care a lot about her, so I tried Mormonism. I read like the first 5 pages of the book, and I was like, this is really bad writing. And I wrote an article about the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, so I know what I'm talking about. And then I went to Mormon church. I was like, well, maybe church is better. And then all these people I've never met in my life are like, Zach, it's good to see you. Zach, it's so nice that you're here. I'm so glad that you're embracing this. And I felt more and more like they had my name on a whiteboard in the back, and they crossed me off like a hit list of people they wanted to convert. And then I realized, I learned something at Mormon church is that Mormons have their own special underwear, which is the nerdiest thing I can imagine. And it's like they do. It's like it's supposed to be an extra layer between them and like sin. And I've always wanted to buy a pair, but I don't know where you can. Like, can I go to Walmart and go like, hey, where's your Mormon underwear? And it's like, oh, it's in our religious department. It's right next to our Catholic parkas and our Jewish mittens. You can't miss it because it's filled with a bunch of blonde children. I have to take a poll because there are a lot of nerds in this room, and I feel very strongly about this. Does anybody else in this room just hate the Big Bang Theory? Because being a nerd is vastly more complicated than saying bazinga and being a fucking asshole. That's my one. Like, being a nerd is understanding that Jurassic Park 3 is better than Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and dying on that hill no matter what it takes. And I'll prove that point, because the next minute it is said is about this argument. Jurassic Park 3 isn't a good movie. It takes the first movie, which is like, these are animals that shouldn't be brought around, and now we're paying for our hubris. And Jurassic Park 3 went, yeah, but what if one of them was evil? And it's like, no, animals aren't evil. It's like, but this one is, and he's going to fight all the good ones. You're like, okay. And it's like, oh, yeah, and Alan Grant can speak Velociraptor. And you're like, okay, I'm turning this shit off. This is really bad. But then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom turns it up a notch when they have a clone child release a bunch of dinosaurs into America because they were cloned too, and she was cloned so they're like each other. That's the stupidest shit I've ever read or seen, and I read the Book of Mormon, so I know what stupid is. And I remember going to this movie in Great Falls, Montana, and people that were sitting next to me were like, every time there was a dinosaur on screen, they were like, whoa, can you believe that? Like, we are 5 movies into this point. This isn't special. Nothing happening on screen you haven't seen before. They're like, how did they do that? I'm like, what do you mean, how did they do that? Like, that was crazy. Do you see that one dinosaur? It's like, which one? That's the whole movie. The whole movie is dinosaurs. You're blown away by one of them? And it was like, it's the one that can trace people with a laser pointer. And I'm like, oh, the stupid dinosaur. Okay. I realized who I'm arguing with. It was my mom. She really liked that movie. I was told when I was very young by a bully that no one would ever love me because I was a nerd. And I was like, that's a weird thing to say, Dad, but thank you very much. But that I did disprove that fact. Like I said, I do have a fiance, and I was running a lot of these jokes by her earlier, and she was like, a lot of these jokes are really sad. And I was like, this is what you're signing up for. You luckily have another year to decide if you really want to get down with this. And it's funny because she doesn't ever want me to write jokes about her. And the unfortunate part about being in a relationship with me, at some point you're going to slip into a joke. And like, for instance, when I proposed to her, she was very excited. And I could tell she was just very excited because when I asked her to marry me, she said, yeah. And I clarified, I was like, are you sure? She's like, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's pretty excited. She's expressed more excitement for getting Taco Bell than the prospect of marrying this for life, which means that diuretics are more appealing, which I understand. But it is hard because today was supposed to be a day I was supposed to marry her, and I know she's watching at home, and I wanted to say something to her. So unless your name is Rose and I'm marrying you, this isn't about you. I'm really sorry. If we had a connection, please don't ever contact me again. Rose, I really wanted to marry you today. I'm excited for next year when it does happen. And as much of a garbage fire as this year has been, it's been good to share it with you, somebody that can make me a little stronger getting through it. So I love you very much, honey. That's it for me tonight, everybody. But I do get the pleasure of introducing Montana Comedian of the Year forever, I think. They're not doing that competition anymore. He shot that horse in the face. Give it up for Michael Beers, everybody.
Oh, that wasn't 6 feet. God damn it. All right. The only thing smoother than my exits are my entries. Wow. Zach, yeah, you just don't have the best of luck, like making plans and having them follow through. And that's being Montana Comedian of the Year, I guess. So I was almost late. I was in the alley with Austin Valley. And I have okay, so I'm still really excited to be here. I'm really excited everybody showed up. Y'all, I don't think I'm a nerd. I didn't understand anything y'all said. Past Tolkien, it was a blur. I was like, I sympathize though. At best, I might be the Jane Goodall of nerds, because I've lived amongst you. I've studied your habits. I've wondered where your mating rituals are, or if they exist. But no, I really do want to thank everybody, especially if you're listening. And I say listening because you're probably scrolling through Pornhub and just listening to us in the background. I became acutely aware of that halfway through the show. I was like, 8 out of 10 people, we're not the only tab open right now. There's at least one incognito window open. Then we have no idea what we're narrating in the background. And to you, I say good on you for being creative. And we're almost done, as I'm sure you are. But here's a PSA. If that is what you're doing, if you are multitasking right now, don't forget to take off your mask. Because I didn't the other day. And I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror as I was scrolling through Pornhub. I almost called the cops on myself. It's like, this is super creepy. But I'm going to throw this up again, and I'm going to transition smoothly from that conversation to saying, like, this is going to help us get the bus running. And this is a dope idea. Okay, I don't know, like, I was a little tired. I apologize. I didn't bring up a ton of energy when I first came up here, but this is a dope idea. Okay, we can single-handedly change the narrative of what the short bus is for people. Because we can roll through your town, and we're going to use that same ramp that I was embarrassed by as a stage. We're going to put a microphone on that thing. We're going to roll up to your cul-de-sac, and we're just going to start preaching. Awful jokes. But no, it is fun. Like, we are going to, like, hopefully, you know, the thought is to take it to schools and have an assembly with myself and a lot of the other characters you've seen here tonight. And we're going to be the coolest people on the coolest bus in any given school that we're in for that day. Which has not only never happened to a short bus, it's never happened to any of us. We are going to take that back. So please, if you can, donate to this as well. I do, before I get out of here, want to say I'm glad kids aren't watching. And if you are, maybe you should be doing this. I don't know. As a 38-year-old, I want to advise you against this, but as somebody that looks at the world and is like, I don't know, maybe this is good advice for you. Because I've heard a lot of parents, like everybody's at a breaking point, right? You know, mental health-wise or just the state of the world. My sisters are arguing with their kids constantly about, you have to wear your mask, you have to put it on. Well, what if I'm with my friends? You got to put it on. Here's something that I hope kids don't figure out, or I do hope they figure out. Because kids, you could put your masks on and wear them diligently like we're all telling you to, and we could get what we want from you. Or you could not wear your mask, and you could get everything you've ever wanted. We won't be around. But maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. We haven't done great. Oh, I know. God, I'm really glad I'm not on school board anymore. I couldn't say that if I was on the school board. And now there's 10 people at home that were on another tab. And at least one of them was like, oh shit, he's not on the school board anymore? And then there's another 3 that were like, oh my God, that jackass was on the school board? It's a mixed bag out there in Facebook land. But again, thank you everybody. Thanks to the ZACC. Lots of love to you for allowing us to do this. I know it seemed like we were filming like a Comics Anonymous meeting. My name's Michael Beers. It's been 6 months since my last performance. And then they goes, hi, Michael. A couple other people to really thank. Michaela and Chris, thank you for the work that you've done tonight. Let's give them a lot of love. All the comics you saw, let's give them another round of love tonight. And a big shout out to the producer of Nerd Comedy, Lenny Peppers. Let's give Lenny a round of applause. Yeah, it was so good to be here. It's so good to talk about the bus, and even more so to share a room with you all again. It was amazing, and good luck out there, everybody.